Hey yo there, SOENJAY here. I want to tell you about this trip that I took recently to New York City. So I took the trip to New York City with my college's broadcasting club, the Adirondack Broadcast Association, ABA. It's just part of the college that I'm at here. And we went to IBS. That does not stand for Irritable Bowel Syndrome. It is Intercollegiate Broadcasting System Convention. I don't know why it's not IBSC, but yeah, anyways. It was held in New York City in the Hotel Pennsylvania. And I had actually never been to New York City before. My dad's family lives down on Long Island, so I've driven on the highways, or I've ridden. I haven't driven myself, but I've been in the car riding around the highways of New York City and stuff like that, and I've seen the city from a distance, but I've never driven through the city, and I've definitely never walked in the city. And coming from upstate New York, where there are more trees around than there are people around, it was, definitely a really cool experience where there's a whole lot more people than trees. The only tree I remember seeing was surrounded by scaffolding and construction, and it just sounded like, it was just crying out for help. It looked so pitiful, just a random tree there. Because, of course, this is March, and there's no leaves on the trees anyways. They're still dead from the winter. So, anyways, in New York City, during the convention, there were a lot of events that we could go and see. There were like 8 of them per hour that you had to choose from, 8 of these panels. So the first one that I went to with some of my friends was a panel on live events and, stuff that radio stations can do to promote live events and stuff like that. So that was quite interesting. That really, to get anything out of that, you really have to be a broadcasting major. Otherwise, it was probably just sound pretty boring. But it was kind of shocking to learn that a lot of colleges have bad relations with their student government. Like, one of these colleges said, oh yeah, 5 years ago, the college radio station did something, and I don't even remember what it was. It was something super trivial, but it ticked off the student government. And 5 years later, when all of the students who had anything to do with that incident are gone, on both accounts of, being in the radio station or being in the government, they've all graduated and moved on. They still have bad relations. So I'm very thankful that our college here at SUNY Adirondack has a good relation with the board of trustees that runs the college's finances and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I never thought of that before, because there were people from all over the place. This intercollegiate broadcasting convention system thing, it's not just for people around here, like in New York. Like, we drove for 3 hours down to New York. It was a day trip. And but people from all over the country came around for this. There were people from Utah. I mean, who lives in Utah? Like, I'm sorry, if you live in Utah, I'm very sorry. I don't mean to be like dissing your state or anything here, but like, why would you come? Like, I don't know. That's a really long way to travel. I suppose the conference did go on for 3 days. We only went down for the day. So actually, before I start going into the rest of the day, let's start off the day. All right, it's 5 a.m. and I wake up and I go to the pickup point, and everybody besides the station manager, Steve, who called shotgun because he's, there are 10 students, and then there's Kevin, my professor, and, the advisor to the ABA club, and then there's Steve, the station manager. He looks over, makes sure the station runs to FCC regulations, and he goes over all the CDs and music that we play to make sure, it's all clean and FCC approved and stuff like that. So they're in the front 2 seats, and then we got 3 bench seats. This van that we have from the athletics department is, I'd say, comfortably seats 11, because you got 9 in the 3 bench seats and then the 2 in the front. We had 12 people altogether. So that leaves me, because I was the only person to get on. I live farther south than the college, so instead of driving all the way up north to the college, getting on the bus, and then driving all the way back south past my house, there was a pickup station for those who lived farther south, so I got to that one. So everybody else got picked up at the college except for Steve and myself, and of course he's sitting in shotgun, so I've got the last seat in the back of the bus, and I'm just squished in next to everybody. And it's a 3-hour ride down to New York City. Of course, we did stop one time for a rest stop and stuff like that, so I got to like move around. I don't know what you know about me. I'm not the largest of individuals, but I am tall. And it was really actually kind of nice, the seat that I got, because I got to sit next to an area where there's kind of an aisle, so I got to stick my legs out, and that was okay. But then once we got down to New York, we went through the Lincoln Tunnel, and that was pretty cool. And normally I don't really like water. I'm not the hugest fan of swimming. I am a land creature. I've had some bad experiences with water. It's not like I can't swim. I can swim. I just don't prefer doing it. But the Lincoln Tunnel, I learned later on that it doesn't just go under the water. It goes under the ground under the water, like underneath the floor of the bay, or wherever it goes from New Jersey to New York. So it's actually underground. If you're in the Lincoln Tunnel and you go directly up, you're gonna hit some land, and then you're gonna hit the water. So that was kind of cool. It's like a 3-mile tunnel. So I've never done anything like that before. So after the first panel about that live events, there was a voiceover panel, and that was really fun. I did enjoy that quite a bit. One of the things that I thought I might want to do as a career when I grew up one time, previously, I might still do this on the side, because it doesn't take too much effort if you just want to like audition for some small roles or stuff like that. But voice acting, I really, really have always enjoyed voice acting. I like doing impressions and stuff like that. I like doing characters and stuff like that. Like I've got, many characters that I do in recordings and stuff like that, and I'll do impressions of people and stuff like that. But I won't do any right now because I don't want to ruin it. I don't think I'm that good, but some of my friends enjoy it, and it makes them laugh. So I feel like, I might eventually decide to audition for some sort of voice acting role in the future. So after the second panel, it was lunchtime. We went to New York Supreme Pizza. Of course, you're in New York City. You walk 50 feet, and there's a pizza place, and then you walk another 50 feet, and there's another pizza place. We went to this place called New York Supreme, and that was the only money I spent the entire day. $8 on 2 slices of pizza. I didn't get any knickknacks or anything like that, but I didn't really want to. We went into a knickknack shop, and I was just like, I've got a mug collection, and there are mugs here, but I don't really want them. And so I didn't really get anything out of it. But it wasn't, it wasn't that big of a deal. The pizza was definitely memorable, though. I had pepperoni first, and then I had a slice of bacon pizza, and boy, that bacon pizza was just heavenly delicious. I cannot even describe it. New York pizza, for those who don't know, is thin crust and sometimes a little bit crunchy. Like, that's like the official kind of pizza. You don't have any of this doughy, fluffy stuff that you get from, the rectangular pizzas that you get from the supermarket and stuff like that. So it was some good pizza. So after that, we had still had some time. We walked down to Times Square. I say we, that was me and 5 of my friends. Let's see, who was there? Let me just jog the memory here. It was myself, it was Cody, it was David, it was Coble, it was Chris, and it was Mitch. There we go, that's 6, including myself. So we were walking around down to Times Square before the next panel started, because there was a spot in the middle of the day where there was time for lunch where nothing was going on. So we walked down to Times Square, and it, honestly, it looks bigger on TV. It really wasn't that impressive. There were people everywhere. There were cars everywhere. I wasn't, I knew what Times Square looked like from TV, and, being there, you'd think it would be pretty cool. I'd say it was cool. I mean, I wasn't too impressed with it because I already knew what it was. I mean, if I had never experienced what Times Square was like before, like through the, seeing it on TV or something like that, it probably would have been even better. But things that I learned about being in New York City, like walking around. Now, Cody and Mitch had previously been to New York City several times each. And Cody told me some stuff. One thing that I learned that Cody didn't tell me is drive confidently if you're in this city. Now, I didn't drive in this city. Only Kevin drove. But the people in the city drive very confidently. There was, the reason I say this is because Coble almost got hit by a bus. Now, I don't really know how close he was to getting hit by this bus, but the point is the bus was going like 20 or 30 miles an hour, and that's really fast for New York City. And, you could see the bus driver. He just one hand on the wheel, one hand on the horn. He's just ready to rip the pavement up. He's just, if anybody gets in his way, you're getting plowed over by a bus, son. Uh, so, what I've learned is that if I'm ever going to drive in New York City, I'm not going to drive in New York City. I'm going to get a taxi cab or something. Because there are like a gajillion taxis. And it's not only just one make and model of taxi either. There were like SUV taxis, there were van taxis, there were hatchbacks and sedans and all sorts of other stuff. It was quite interesting. But what Cody told me about walking in New York City. Rule number 1, hands in your pockets. Rule number 2, don't look up. Rule number 2, don't look down. Rule number 3, don't look around. Rule number 4, appear outwardly mildly perturbed. If you just have this grimace and solemn look on your face, you just blend in. You're not a tourist, because if you're looking up and around, you're a tourist. And you don't want to pretend that you're a tourist, because otherwise people are going to try to sell you stuff or get you to take pictures. There were a bunch of characters from Sesame Street and Disney films and Marvel, and they were all, dressed up, and they'd want you to take a picture with them and then pay them for it. So you just kind of have to ignore those people if you don't want pictures. Although I will admit, there was one guy who was a Spider-Man, and he was really into it. He went upside down on one of the crosswalk signs, and someone got a really cool picture with him. Just a random person on the street. None of my friends got pictures, so we didn't want to pay people for it. Yeah, so you're supposed to not be outwardly touristy, I guess. You're supposed to blend in, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're telling this to the tall guy in a black Rainbow Dash Cutie Mark hoodie. Man, nobody bucks with Rainbow Dash. Okay, nobody's gonna get that reference, but anyways, yeah, I was walking down. I was with a group of 5 other dudes, so I never felt like I was ever in danger or anything like that. But I'm like, I do not blend in here at all. Whatever. It was still pretty fun to walk around and stuff like that. So we got back to Hotel Pennsylvania, and Coble really wanted to go to this seminar on the thing called Next Radio. So Coble, David, myself, and Mitch went to this thing on Next Radio. Now, I don't know if you've heard about Next Radio. Basically, there is a radio transceiver chip in your phone, in your smartphone right now, and it probably is not activated because the companies don't want to activate it. What it does is it acts as a receiver, and it'll let your phone get local radio. But most of the time when people want to listen to music on their phone, they'll stream it. They'll go to Pandora or something like that, and that uses data. And, that's what the companies want. The reason they haven't unlocked this chip yet is because using the radio is not going to be using data, and they probably don't want to do that. But if we have enough of a consumer demand for it, eventually they will do it. Right now, the 2 big names that haven't agreed to it are Verizon and Apple. As far as I know, AT&T just got on board, but if you have an iPhone with AT&T, Apple doesn't want to do it. So they're not unlocking the thing. But if you have an Android with AT&T, I believe it should be working right now. Yeah, and then Verizon doesn't want to do it. But they've got some smaller phone companies as well. And when I say smaller, I mean around here anyways. Around upstate New York, it's all about Verizon and AT&T because Sprint's network up here just sucks. But so they have Sprint, they've got Virgin Mobile, they've got a lot of other companies. But the reason that they're trying to advocate for that is because radio has personality to it. When you go to Pandora and you stream music, it's just song after song after song after song, and there's nothing. When you listen to the radio, it's local. You hear news, you hear weather, you hear, there's little local contests for things that you can win, and of course there's the DJs. They can talk about stuff that might be interesting, that you might want to hear. And that's where radio has a leg up on the streaming thing. So I think more people would like to listen to local radio if they had it on their phones. That way you don't have to cart a radio around. And the other thing is, though, it doesn't require data, so the companies aren't going to want to do it. But we need to make enough of a consumer demand for it, and I think that it will eventually go through. The entire panel was asking the college students to advocate for this and, get interest in it and stuff like that. I might even sign up to do that around my local area. There was a contest that you could possibly win stuff for Next Radio and stuff like that. So it was really interesting. After that, that was the last like really notable panel that I went to. Any of the rest of them probably weren't too interesting to listen to if you're not a broadcasting major, so I'm not going to tell you about those. We piled back into the van. It took like 30 minutes for the valet to get the van back. And we piled back in, and we went up to New Jersey and pumped gas. And when I say we pumped gas, I mean you didn't get out of your car. We got gas. It's actually illegal to get out of your car and pump your own gas in New Jersey, and I didn't know that. Not that that was a problem. Kevin knew that, and he just pulled up, and the guy, pumped the gas that was full service and stuff like that. And I didn't know that. That's really cool. So if you're ever in New Jersey and you're not from New Jersey, don't pump your own gas. You get arrested. Well, I don't know if you'd actually get arrested, but the point is, don't pump your own gas because you're not supposed to be doing that. Gas was super duper cheap, though. It was only like $1.49. They don't have as many taxes in New Jersey as they do in New York, and they don't have to cart it as far on trucks because it comes straight in off the tankers, and, New Jersey's right on the shore there, so they don't have to have as much transportation fees. We filled up like 16 gallons for $25. It was ridiculous. So we stopped at a diner and we had some breakfast for dinner. Well, I did anyways. Other people had like burgers and stuff like that. And it was really nice. And then we got all the way back up to where my car is, and Steve and I got out, and the rest of them continued on up to the college to get their cars and go for the rest of the day. That was like maybe 10 p.m. or so, and then I drove home, and I didn't fall asleep until maybe 11 or so. So that was like a 19-hour day, and like 19-hour day, I've done that before. It's not that big of a deal doing a 19-hour day, but traveling down to New York City, attending a convention, and then traveling all the way back, that's a lot of activity for a 19-hour day. So needless to say, I was pooped. And I didn't wake up until 11 a.m. the next day, so I got like a full 11 or 12 hours of sleep. And the next day was kind of, pretty chill. Talked with my buddies, Mike and Ryan, about the IBS conference and stuff like that. But yeah, on the way back, on the way there and on the way back, we were, you get 10 broadcasting students in a van, and they're going to be playing music. So most of the music I didn't know because I don't listen to pop music of the last, 10 years or whatever when I've been growing up. I just don't, I don't find the appeal of it. I don't really like it. I'll know some of the titles and I'll know the tunes, but I will not know at all any of the words. My friend David on the way down actually did play some Weird Al, and I was belting that out. Played like 5 Weird Al songs in a row, so that was my contribution. And and on the way back, there was definitely a whole lot less enthusiasm because everyone was like super duper tired, and we were like, oh my god, I cannot believe this. People were nodding off and everything, and of course I was stuck in the back up against the window with like 6 inches of space. The only other time I can think of that I was that squashed in a car was when we tried to fit 4 people into a bench seat in a tow truck that's meant for 2 people. But that's another story, and I'll link that in the description if you want to hear about the tow truck adventure of a lifetime. So, that was my experience at the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System Convention in New York City. I felt like it was pretty cool. I learned a lot of cool stuff. Saw a lot of cool stuff down there in New York City. I don't know if I'd ever want to go back to New York City unless it was specifically like for a vacation or something like that. I didn't really see the appeal of New York City, but that's coming from a guy who's lived in upstate New York for 20 years, and I really like where I am right now. So until next time, I've been SOENJAY. So long.